Hello, welcome to Monday Night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted to be joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
I'm very well, Daniel. Delighted that we're actually managing to get out on air, because about 5 minutes ago we thought that might not be possible, technical issues. But as usual, we got there in the end.
There's some people that might be thinking right now, if only they hadn't got on air, but that's
Yep,
another story.
I can well believe it.
Top marks to producer Paul for sorting it out.
Yep, well done, Paul.
When we left you yesterday, Keith, you were talking about the Masters. Did you watch it last night?
Yes.
It was pretty amazing.
I mean, it just never disappoints. That never lets you down. The Masters, just
Aye.
unbelievable. That might be the story to end them all. The way that transpired last night. But yeah, fatigued today. I've got a cup of tea in front. I should have a coffee.
Aye. We viewers of the show will know that you were talking last week about the show you're watching. This City Is Ours.
Yeah.
I watched it all in the weekend.
How good?
It was really good. Aye, it was
brilliant.
really good. I've got some issues with the ending, but maybe we'll talk about that off air.
I thought the ending was great. It's all set up for a second series.
Aye, I know it is. Aye.
I'm on to Mobland now, which is really good as well.
I've watched a couple of them. Aye, they're good. Aye. Welcome to TV Hour. No, right. We obviously have to crack on with the football, and a lot of big news this afternoon because the post-split fixtures have been revealed by the SPFL. I think we can have a look at the full top 6 fixtures just now. So there you go. Celtic start away to Dundee United. Rangers are away to St Mirren. Aberdeen Hibs. Interestingly, of course, Rangers versus Celtic on May the 4th. Celtic obviously can win it at Tannadice, but if they fail to win at Tannadice, they can, of course, win it at Ibrox, Keith.
May the 4th be with you.
Aye, Star Wars Day.
Yeah, interesting, because this was supposed to be the thing that you're desperately trying to avoid, but there is the potential if Celtic were to be defeated. I mean, it's only a point, and you think if you're a betting man, you would be fairly safe in assuming that Celtic will get what they need at Tannadice. But just in case they don't, it doesn't have set it all up for Ibrox, doesn't it? The potential to win the title at the home of the rivals. Yeah, and interestingly as well, just to heap further controversy into the thing, that match on May the 4th, it's right in between the two legs of Europa League semi-finals. So if Rangers do get past Athletic Bilbao on Thursday night, then what a week that is. 8 days or whatever it is. And I would imagine that Rangers probably wouldn't thank you very much to the SPFL supercomputer for throwing an Old Firm game into the middle of that week. But there you go. That's what it is.
I mentioned to you just before we came on air, and anyone watching, if you can provide the answer in the comment section, we'd really appreciate it. Has any champion of Scotland lost 3 Old Firm games and still win the league? Because if Celtic were to do that, obviously Ibrox, they'd still win the league. But I can't think of any example of one of the teams.
No, I can't.
I don't think it's been done. Certainly not by treble winners.
Mm-hmm.
Aye. So if anyone has any examples,
Yeah,
let me know.
What were you saying here? What's your scenario that Celtic win the league at Tannadice and then go to Ibrox and
would you bet against it? Well, not put their feet up, but I just think Rangers might beat them.
I'd tell you this, Daniel, if Rangers are involved in 2 legs of a Europa League semi-final, they might put out a team very similar to the one they put Pittodrie at the weekend. I mean, there's all sorts of interesting issues around it. It'll be fascinating to see. But, for years and years, we were always told that this was they couldn't make an Old Firm match a potential. They would go any lengths to avoid it. I'm glad that that's not the case anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would be quite incredible if all of that was on that game, and if Rangers were competing in a semi-final European competition on either side of it. I mean, what a week! So yeah, but it'll be fascinating. I'm looking about the fixtures. Obviously, third place is a huge issue. It's going to be potentially five league places. The top 5 will all get European entry if Celtic win the Scottish Cup. and you could pick those 5 just now. I think St Mirren are, they're happy to be in the top 6 just because they're not in the bottom 6 and therefore free of any relegation threat. So yeah, loads to play for, and Hearts are really interesting as well. And I know I keep going on about them, but by dropping into that bottom 7, I think their first game in the bottom 6 is home against Dundee, and then they're away at Ross County. See if Hearts were to lose those 2 games, they've got a serious problem in terms of they'd be drifting and getting dragged down towards the potential relegation playoff.
And away, you saw there on the screen, away to Killeen the last day, which isn't the easiest of fixtures.
That's not what you want, is it? Kilmarnock.
And I was saying just off air, the thing about Hearts as well is obviously they're gutted. Really, it was a sickener to finish the bottom 6. They're not going into this with any sort of momentum at all.
Well, they better get their heads around it, because that's exactly where they are. And what they can't do is feel sorry for themselves. They've shown, and we've discussed this on the show, Hearts fans are getting a little bit angsty about the fact that they can't seem to win the games that matter. I mean, they're about to face 5 that really matter. So it's got that's going to be. And Dundee, because they are sitting second bottom just now, they're going to go to Tynecastle knowing what's at stake. And you've seen signs with this Dundee side. They're decent. I think they're a decent side. They're dangerous. They're threatening. If Dundee go to Tynecastle in the first game, post split, and get a result, get a win, I think it wouldn't have set a cat in amongst the pigeons.
Is your gut feeling that Hearts will get drawn into this?
You would think, because one, they've got a kind of security blanket in terms of points, which means that they're sitting in 7th. So that puts them in a relatively safe place. But it's not impossible for them to get dragged into this. And these teams they're all fighting for life. If Hearts don't have the right attitude going into these games, they could end up with a real issue on their hands. The safest thing is to take care of Dundee in the first game at Tynecastle, home game, beat Dundee, you're safe. Fail to beat Dundee, you've got a problem. Go to Ross County and get beat, oh my. So yeah, that'll be interesting in the kind of lower echelon. I think St Johnstone, I think their fate's sealed. So it really is just about who's going to, how to dodge getting dragged into that relegation issue. And I don't think, Hearts just have to go into this with the right attitude. As I said, they can't be feeling sorry for themselves. They've made a bit of a botch of the season. It's been a bit of a disaster, but they can't allow it to get any worse. So they need to have their head right in the game on day one when Dundee come to town.
We've got plenty of comments coming in on Hearts, and if you want to get involved in the conversation, please do. Rangers Easy OK says their captain is enjoying too many late nights at Ibrox. Don't blame him, to be fair. Obviously referring to Lauren Shankland, who was at the Bobal game last week. Hoopsaholic says Hearts are there a minute, all that mouthing off last summer about competing at the top end. And Gianni says some difference from Hearts in the first game at Tynecastle against Rangers having the next calf out right back to where they are now. A couple of comments actually while I'm here on Celtic's issues as well. Barry Egan says, perfect. If Celtic clinch the title at Tannadice, let's see how Sporting Integrity over at Govan the following week. Surely they'll be given a guard of honour. And this one from Craig Robertson, wouldn't bother me if Celtic get beat at Tannadice, then won at Ibrox the following week. Celtic players could spray the Rangers fans with champagne.
And more people coming home from the football with slightly damp trousers.
Absolutely. Okay. We talked about league reconstruction recently, but this is what I mean. I quite like the split. I think it throws up.
I'm coming round to the conclusion that it was fascinating when Fraser Wilson pointed out it's 25 years that we've had the top 12. I wouldn't have thought that, but so maybe now it feels like it's kind of ours. We're familiar with it. I don't see any reason really. And look, and I get it. I know that there is a push, and there is part of me thinks if we expand it, it'd be good. A little bit of kind of fresh blood, if you like, into the division. There are teams in the Championship that I think could hold their own in the Premier League. So that's another reason why you might want to look at it. But I kind of like the 12 now. I'm used to it, and you know, we keep talking about it every weekend. Everywhere you look, there's a game that's got something on it.
Aye.
And if we take that away, if we dilute that in any way, I don't know if we're looking after our product well. I like what we've got. If only there would be a proper title fight at the top end of the table, you'd just about have the perfect setup, wouldn't you?
Aye. You would think so.
I mean, obviously St Johnstone are falling away by the looks of it, but you've still got a relegation issue. You still get jeopardy for all the clubs in the bottom six. There's European places to fight for at the top end. Yeah, if you just had a compelling title race, then you know you've got nothing. It wants for nothing other than that. The way that the set up with the 12. But we'll be interested to see. I don't think there's going to be change. I said that from day one, because finding the consensus amongst the clubs is an almost impossible task. So I can't see there being a big enough appetite or consensus for making changes. So I think we'll probably be stuck with what we've got, and I'm okay with that, Daniel.
Aye, me too. Craigie, I know this comes up all the time, but Craigie says, personally, if Celtic win at Dundee United, Gers should do the Guard of Honour, show respect, and maybe show the Nuggets from both clubs they respect each other in football and respect in winning the league. I mean, look, it's never going to happen, is it?
Well, do you know what? I think that's quite a grown-up.
Aye, very,
approach.
very mature. Aye.
And you know, why not? Why not? I mean, do I think it'll happen? No. Could I see Barry Ferguson walking out and leading the tributes? No.
That's a thought.
Highly unlikely. But it's a nice thought, isn't it?
Aye.
We can always dream of a better world. Yeah, I mean, look, do you know what? Maybe it would. Maybe it'd be a little touch of class if you've prepared to. I don't know. Would they seriously applaud Celtic's players onto their own pitch?
Can I see it?
I don't know. There's too much kind of water gone under the bridge where this relationship is concerned. I don't see it becoming love and chocolates and cuddles on May the 4th, whatever happens.
Right on cue, Rangers, is he okay? No bother, Craig, if that happened, I would never be at Ibrox. This comment as well. Drew Heaps coming in saying Celtic better wrap it up this weekend because they've no chance of doing it at Ibrox. They're in the pocket. So aye, it's been a fairly busy day in the Scottish football.
Well, there's always a control, and people will find reason to get angry about stuff and the fixtures and the whole post-split, pre-split, just the split in general gets people hot and bothered at the best of times. But there's more stuff to look forward to. It's going to be fascinating. Will Celtic go and get the job done at Tannadice? I think they will. What they don't, then it does roll over down to Ibrox. Celtic have had issues with Rangers in the last couple of derby matches. Fascinating. But, if anybody actually out there thinks that Celtic might not conclude their business with the league title is concerned this season, they're off their head. It will happen. It'll probably happen at Tannadice. But yeah, it certainly gives us something to talk about and to watch and get excited about, and that's Scottish football all over the back, and that's where we live.
Aye, Joseph Agnew on the Guard of Honour says, "Why not? It's supposed to stop all the hatred, but Hoopsaholic says there's too much wokery in that." And I actually get his point. I mean, look, they're massive rivals. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, don't go over the score, but they're rivals.
Yeah. I mean, but it is, it's meant to happen if the game after the champions become champions or crowned, they are meant to get it. It's meant to be part of the deal. But I'd rather suspect, and you know what? I agree with that as well. This fixture, that particular fixture, has all sorts of drama around it, and it's all centred around, whether we want to admit it or not, it's all centred around a deep disliking for one another. So a friendly old fun match, I'm not sure such a thing will ever exist.
I hope.
And the glass guy that tried to do one of them is now, he was the guy that the James Bisgrove suite in the stand. That was another one of his epic ideas, and look how that worked out.
Honestly, I was about to say the exact same thing.
Yeah, yeah. So perhaps not one of his better ideas.
Who's your money? Obviously, we mentioned St Johnstone look like they're doomed, and who knows who'll join them in the playoff. But who do you fancy for third, Keith? I mean, it looks like it's Aberdeen and Hibs, obviously.
I fancy Hibs strongly.
Aye.
Yeah. I just think everything about Hibs is impressing me right now. Just look at the run. What is it? 17 games now unbeaten.
Remarkable. Crazy.
They're ending the season the way Aberdeen started it.
Aye,
and that's why Hibs would be my pick for third. And it's not just the results, it's the performances, it's the way the team looks, it's the energy, the organisation, the balance, the structure about their side is spot on. Hibs are a right good watch. And they've got a terrific work ethic, and the players that obviously enjoy playing for the manager. And he's built a system which works for them. Hibs have been great, and they thoroughly deserve everything they're going to get for the rest of this season. And I strongly suspect that everything they're going to get is third place.
That brings me to my next point. Manager of the year, Keith. We touched on this a little bit before, right? But obviously David Gray of Hibs will be in there. I would put forward Stephen Robinson. I think 3 in a row, top 6, must be one of the smallest budgets in the division, and he keeps cranking out results. And I actually, kind of gave them a bit of stick for the celebrations at the weekend. But you pointed out, not only have they got top 6, they avoid potentially getting dragged into that relegation battle. And look, I genuinely think, all things considered, I think he's a very good shout for manager of the year.
Listen, he deserves an honourable mention, that's for sure. I mean, it's astounding that St Mirren have now done that 3 seasons in a trot. And, that speaks volumes for the job that Stephen Robinson is doing there. It's really impressive. They're punching way above their weight, and they're doing it regularly. It's not a freak occurrence. And it's a difficult place to go, isn't it? They're a good side to watch, because they're really high intensity. They get after people in their games. You know what I mean? They're never... They don't take a backward step. They engage. They're aggressive. They're front-footed, and they play some nice stuff. And they're dangerous. So I mean, an absolutely outstanding job. But I keep coming back to it, Daniel. I have said that I think fully expect Celtic to win the treble. And a season where you've got a guy, even though Celtic are making this look just like par for the course now, getting a treble, it's not. And any manager that wins a treble deserves to take away the plaudits and the personal recognition at the end of it. So Brendan Rodgers will be my choice for manager of the year, but that's not to say that Stephen Robinson, David Gray, even Jimmy Tillene has quite an impressive first season, but Jim Goodwin's had an exceptional season at Tannadice. So these guys have all done a terrific job, and they all deserve to be, congratulated for it. But I'm sorry, if Celtic win a treble, then the king takes the crown.
And you can see there's a couple of shouts for Goodwin from promotion to a possible third, which means
been brilliant. They've been brilliant. And by the way, it's not as if they've come up and struck. I mean, I watched them in the first game of the season, and it was interesting to see. It was the Dundee derby. I was interested to watch it because I like the derbies. But I was really interested to see what Dundee United looked like, because there was United fans going into the start of this season didn't seem to me be 100% behind Jim Goodwin. But I watched that performance that day, and I thought I was really impressed by them, and they've continued to impress me all the way throughout the campaign. Again, they're well worthy of their place up at the top end.
It'll be interesting though, Keith, if and when they lose Sam Dalby, if they can,
replacing him's going to be
very hard,
a big ask. And you've seen, for example, Motherwell. Motherwell have had a couple of seasons lately when they've had a goal scorer. And what a difference that makes. And you've seen that Motherwell has struggled a little bit without an out-and-out goal scorer this season. I think that's contributed to the fact that they're looking at the bottom 6 rather than the top 6. because this season they've gone into it and they've not been able to replace the goals that they've lost. And yes, that's going to be a big ask for United. But I think they're well structured as a side. The tricky bit, and this is where Jim Goodwin's going to have to pull a rabbit out of the hat, is as you said, replacing Dalby if that's what's going to have to be required.
Marzuno does point out surely winning the treble in second gear is quite an achievement, which, look, I would stand by my Stephen Robinson, but I do accept if you win every competition in the country.
I mean, that's just it. I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it? That's the whole. And I know people will say, well, Celtic have got the biggest budget, but it's not. I mean, I remember a time when winning trebles was really quite a hard thing to do. For me, it's the ultimate. You know, if you can dominate, if you're so dominant in your own domestic setup that you win all 3 trophies, I don't care that Celtic have made a habit of doing it lately. You take everyone on their own, in their own context. It's, you know, it's over the course of a campaign, however many months that is, for Celtic to come out on top in all 3 competitions, take 2 cups and win the league, and by the way, had an impressive campaign in the Champions League. Yeah, you know, yes, it's maybe not a fair fight when you compare what other managers are working with in terms of the budget. But you've got to acknowledge if somebody's winning everything, then they deserve the awards for it.
Aye, I think that's fair. A couple of issues for us to sort from yesterday, Keith. Some comments that have come in. This one from Bill Lockerby, who says, celebrating the way Rangers people do following a draw sums up where they are right now. But I guess when you've won zilch in a lifetime of many of their fans, celebrating a draw must be as good as winning a treble. For the good of those starved fans, I hope they enjoy many more exciting draws. And with a couple of comments about Rangers celebrating the draws, celebrating the draw yesterday. I mean, what did you make of it?
It's not really. Again, you've got to look at the context, haven't you? They're 1-0 down, lose a man to a sending off, and then lose a second goal before half-time. So 2-0 down and a man down by half-time. You can understand if you were a player or you were involved in that, you know, you'd be fairly pleased with yourself if you managed to dig yourself out a hole, show a bit of appetite, hunger, desire, all the things that Barry Ferguson has talked about since taking over from Philippe Clement. And I guess there probably was an element of, you know, rather than just hand the title away, they at least showed a bit of character and fight to come back from a game that looked beyond them at halftime. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's, you all get involved in football in the first place to try and enjoy the moments when you do something that's worthy of celebrating. Now, getting a draw at Aberdeen, yes, on the face of it, it's not really time to get the bunting out, is it? But given the manner of where they were, the context of the you know, being 2-0 down and a man down at the interval, and factoring into that the fact that Barry Ferguson is trying to engender and nurture these players and put a bit of fight and backbone and grit into them. So they delivered for him in terms of finding a way back into a game which seemed to be dead and buried at halftime.
Aye. Mark in the comment section chimes in as well, saying it's embarrassing carrying on and celebrating like they'd actually won something. But I'm actually with you. I would give them a pass for this one. I mean, they go to Aberdeen.
They're a completely changed team as well.
They played the reserves and got a man sent off and came for 2 goals down.
Yeah.
I would actually point at Aberdeen and say it's pretty scandalous to throw away a 2-goal lead in those circumstances.
There's a big element of that. And there's also an element of quite brave in a way from Barry Ferguson, knowing there's a hostile environment that he's taking his team into at Pittodrie, knowing that Aberdeen are having they've recovered from a difficult sticky patch in the middle of the season. They're on the up again. And he was brave enough to make all those changes because he's singled out Europe as the place where, you know, if Rangers are to get any joy, significant, meaningful joy out of this campaign, it can only come in Europe. And also, I guess, in terms of his own standing, if he's to be considered a candidate for this job in the long haul, you know, I think his credentials would be greatly enhanced if he can find a way past Bilbao on Thursday night and into the semi-finals. I mean, let's not forget, any Scottish side to reach a semi-final of European competition is quite a big achievement.
Absolutely.
And I've been lucky enough in this job that when Celtic got to Seville, I was at most of the games along the way. That was an incredible adventure and something that I didn't think I'd ever see. I didn't think I'd ever get the chance to report on a Scottish club competing in a European final. And that happened in Seville in 2003. Rangers then made it to Manchester under Walter Smith. Similar story. You think, this is just astonishing. Didn't think I'd do 2 in 5 years, and then Rangers get to another one. And who's to say? Because they keep defying the odds. So, I mean, Manchester United or Leon, I tell you what.
You'd take that Man U team, wouldn't you?
I would take Man U all day long.
Mm.
So I'm sure that, you know, Rangers will be looking at that, thinking if they can just find a way to get past Bilbao, Man United are there for, well, they're not there for the taking, but they're really vulnerable. They're a bad lot.
Aye.
And they're unsettled. Managers coming under pressure. The whole club's got a bad feel about it. Could you imagine the reaction in Manchester if Rangers put Manchester United out? I mean, that could be a very dangerous for Amarim, you know, I know he's just in the door, but would he survive that? And everything about Manchester United feels wrong. You look at guys like Roy Keane and these, I think Paul Scholes had a bit of a blast at them as well. It's just the attitude problem. There's the real attitude problem about that Manchester United side. So if Rangers could get past Bilbao on Thursday night, and by the way, I think one of the Williams brothers is a major doubt for that. Not Nico, is Inaki, sorry, with a hamstring injury, which is, you know, will be welcome news for Barry Ferguson, I'm sure, because he's a threat, handful. So yeah, if they can just find a way of getting through that, you never know. This whole thing could just open up again. And you know, put it this way, they're still in there swinging at this point. The quarter-final is completely alive because of the first leg result, which was achieved again against all the odds. And we've said it time and time again, this Rangers side appears to be designed to play counter-attacking football away from home in Europe. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many fascinating things still to be settled throughout, you know, before now and the end of this season. As I said to you, could you imagine Barry Ferguson got to a European final, won it, didn't get a contract, did get a statue, and just did a mic drop and walked away?
Do you think there's a possibility of that? Do you think he would do that, perhaps?
Well, I mean, who knows? Who knows what the Americans have in their mind's eye? If they've got their own guy in mind, and come hell or high water, they're going to go with that, then it's impossible. For as long as Rangers remain in this competition, it's impossible. I don't think that they're clearly not beating a path to Barry Ferguson's door at this moment in time to have conversations about what's required for next season. So it would make you tend to suspect that they've got something else in mind in a different direction. Or if they don't, and all they're doing is just trying to finalise the takeover, and they've not put any thought whatsoever into what next season looks like, then that would be quite alarming, wouldn't it? So
surely, to goodness, if he gets to a European final and perhaps beats Celtic again at Ibrox, they've got to go, look, there's a year. You'd have thought.
Well, the interesting bit at that point is, I mean, we're joking about getting a statue and all that, but it's quite a big achievement, isn't it?
Oh, huge.
And there's a connection that Barry Ferguson has with the Rangers supporters. And I don't think all of them are convinced that he's the man because his lack of experience and all that. But I tell you what, if he was to get another victory against Celtic, and as you said, get to a semi-final or a final of the Europa League, then even Andrew Kavanagh, even if in his own mind's eye he's got something up his sleeve in terms of who he wants for the job and all that, there would come a point where it becomes tricky. It becomes really tricky if Barry Ferguson achieves all that, and then you have to say, well, thanks very much, off you pop now. Because I don't think the supporters would be too pleased to see that happening either, unless, of course, the guy that that the American owners have in mind is really, a knockout kind of showbiz appointment.
Big sexy name, aye.
Yeah. So it's all in the mix. It's all in the mix, and I'm just the reason that I mention it is because I've just got a wee feeling about Rangers on Thursday night. I think they can get through this. And as I said to you, the whole thing could open up at that point.
Well, lots of comments coming in on this. Let me run through a few. Let's be honest, Rangers have been lucky when opponents better on paper just haven't shown up on the night. Alex Kelly says Liam will beat Man United and Frankfurt will beat Spurs. Ange will be replaced in the summer. Not sure if Amarin is the answer at Man United either. It's worth saying as well that if you said to Ange at the start of the season, you'll have to beat Eintracht Frankfurt and probably Bodo Glimt to get to a European final, you'd have snatched the hand off that. But now, I mean, they just look like they're going to lose every game they play.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Ange, because I really like him and I really like his style of football, and I thought, I loved early Ange at Spurs, but it's becoming really, really difficult for him, isn't it? And you're right,
17 league games in 32 games.
Yeah, and you're right. If you're a club that takes itself seriously and you've got an opportunity like this, and it's Eintracht Frankfurt and Bodo Glimt, and you're a club from the English Premier League with the riches that come with competing in that competition, there's no excuse. So I think it is now starting to look very much, and I don't like saying it because I wanted it to work for Ange at Spurs, but it is starting to look like really hard work, and the relationships are breaking down in terms of how the fans feel about him. They used to chant his name every game. That's all stopped. He's biting at them a little bit. It just feels much like Manchester United. It feels like a very unhappy club right now.
Yeah.
But he always wins something in his second season, Mike. So
and he's still got good players.
And he's still got. They are in this competition, and they're as strong as anybody.
It's only 1-1 first leg. I mean,
yeah,
they could come back.
So it's retrievable, and you can't. I wouldn't rule Spurs out. Although I have to tell you, I watched a Spurs game a week or so ago. I can't even tell you who it was they were playing against. But it was such an un-Ange Postecoglou style performance. I just thought it's starting to look to me as if the players aren't responding. They weren't doing the things that you expect to see from Ange Postecoglou's side. Didn't look remotely like it in terms of they lacked aggression. There was actually a lack of style to the way they were playing. And we all know what Ange Postecoglou's side is meant to look like, and that wasn't it. So that makes me wonder if the players have sort of chucked it. They're not responding to him. So again, do you know what? It's another reason why you look at this competition this season, and something silly could happen, because Manchester United and Spurs at full strength, it should be a no contest, but they're not. They're far from full strength. So the door is opening for somebody to really make an entry at this late stage in the competition. And who knows? Rangers, while they're still standing, they've got a chance. And if they can get a result against Bilbao on Thursday night, then curious things have happened in this competition. Momentum starts to build.
Absolutely.
And if they can find a way past the Spaniards, that momentum, you might start to feel it.
Oops, Alex says Keevins was in short trousers last time Spurs won a title. There's a thought. Before we finish, we got a lot of comments in as well about Ianis Hagi. And I thought just off the back, we had so many of them, I should throw a couple at you. Robert says, what a really wonderful goal Hagi scored. The club should do all they can to keep him by offering an improved contract. He's a top quality player treated badly by deceitful men who wanted to bilk him of a written contractual payment. With Philip Clement's help by refusing to play him. It was shameful, and Roy chimes in saying, is it any wonder Hagi wants to leave Rangers? Successive coaches, present included, have failed to utilise his undoubted talent. It beggars belief how Clement and now Barry Ferguson have ignored or wrongly used him in positions where he was unable to make meaningful contributions. Your thoughts on that, Keith?
Can't disagree with much of it. maybe disagree a little bit in terms of, I think Barry Ferguson obviously got him into his team for the first leg against Athletic Bilbao, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he rates him as a player. I think the problem, and I can't disagree with any of the kind of suggestions there that he's been badly treated. He's been shamefully treated by Rangers. He was treated like a dog at the start of the season, and further back than that. You know, I remember when Michael Beale was doing his big rebuild, and your Sam Lammers and all these guys were coming in, and they couldn't get rid of Hagi quick enough. Hagi at that point was just coming back from a long injury. If you remember, at the end of the previous season, he'd come back into the Rangers team, and he didn't look. He looked a bit rusty. He looked like a player that had been out for a while. I remember that summer looking at him in pre-season, thinking you look stronger, fitter, sharper, and he was hungry. And I thought he was their star player in a couple of pre-season games that I watched. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. They've got a player back in their hands with Hagi. But Beale couldn't get him out the building quick enough to make room for the guys that he wanted to bring in. Absolute bot's job of a recruitment drive. So dating back to that, I think Hagi's been treated badly. Clement then had the chance to bring him back from a loan spell and wasn't interested. Now, that could well have been a contractual issue. But yeah, he's been treated terribly. Really, really poorly. And the incredible thing is that I was listening to his interview after the match, Pataudry, and he was making the point that, you know, he doesn't sound to me like a player that's desperate to leave Rangers behind. On the contrary, he's been desperate to get himself. He was an immaculate professional when he was told to train through no fault of his own with the youths. He's been nothing but, you know, textbook professional, and I think he has actually. I think he's got a passion for the club. He seems to enjoy it. I think if Rangers put a contract on the table, you know, as long as, you know, it wasn't offensive, I think, you know, Hagi would be happy to examine it. And he seems to me like a guy that wants to stay. That's what I'm saying. Right. But I think he's also feeling a little bit bruised at the way he's been treated, and rightly so. It's completely understandable. And yet again, Rangers have managed to get an asset, a guy that's potentially worth a right good couple of quid, and let him run down his contract and leave as a free agent. I mean, it's as if it's Groundhog Day. They seem to learn nothing.
It's a fair point. A couple of comments on it. He's been an utter pro and thrown under the Parks bus by the club. Your loyal Muppet says, Hagi deserves a new contract. He's always a reliable player and shows his worth. He's got a great attitude. Every time he goes on a pitch, he might not always have the best of games. He might not always, because he goes onto the pitch as a potential game changer. The guy that can find a pass to unlock a defence or, you know, score as he did at the weekend. Sometimes it doesn't always come off for him, but what I see in him is, in terms of his effort and desire and energy. I mean, that game against Bilbao, the first leg, I mean, he was monumental in terms of the shift that he put in, the effort, you know, closing people down. He was raging to get subbed off late in the second half, but I thought he was, you know, if it wasn't for the fact that Liam Kelly obviously saves the penalty, I thought Hagi was probably Rangers' outstanding player on the night. So, you know, he's a talented boy, but he's got a work ethic. And it beggars belief that Rangers have allowed this situation to arise where they're about to lose him for nothing. Alex does come back at us saying Clement was instructed by the board not to play Hagi. Hagi's been looking to leave since Rangers since Gerrard departed. He instructed his agents to find a new club prior to the Euros. Nobody wanted him. If Rangers do offer him a new contract, he stays on our terms, not his. I feel it's either way. It's all feels a bit inevitable that there's going to be a partner of the ways there. I agree. I think Hagi would love to commit his future to Rangers. I'm not sure Rangers are in a hurry to commit to him. And when you consider the amount of money that they've splashed out and wasted on their, you know, one failed recruitment drive after the next, as I said, I just find it hard. I can't square the circle where the treatment of Ianis Hagi is concerned. But I think one of the comments there in terms of, you know, does Barry Ferguson rate him? I think you'll see the fact that he didn't start at Pataudry at the weekend tells me that his name is already on the starting team sheet for Thursday night. Yeah. And I think he'll have a big role to play. all fine, but they changed their terms with a year to run in his contract. One comment says, Mark says, Hagi's one of the few that would get into the Celtic squad. Although Robo follows
Talented
up.
boy.
He follows up with Hagi's a donkey, so thanks for that, Robo. That stunning review there. I think on that note, Keith, that brings us to the end of Monday night's Hotline Live.
Great contribution there from Robo.
Thanks, Robo. We really appreciate that. If you could come back tomorrow night.
No, really please don't.
I know. No, that was laced with sarcasm, Robo. Thank you very much for everyone that did get involved in the comments. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow.
We will.
Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Cheers, Dan.
Thanks for watching. Cheers.